Yo, what's going on? I wanted to say I appreciate everybody for tuning in this Friday night where we got a few topics to talk about. We're going to cover three stories today. We're going to take a little bit of a legal deep dive. Clean House 2025. Yo, Paul, shout out to you, man. Let me give you a round of applause for dropping the first comment of the day. And hey, a salute to you too for Clean House 2025 because we got a story today about President-elect Donald Trump. We got to touch bases on it. We got to cover it. I don't normally talk a lot of politics on here because I get roasted from both sides. They be like, "Oh, you a liberal." Then they be like, "Oh, no, you MAGA." I mean, like, I'm I like common sense, and we'll just leave it at that. And so, but we got three interesting stories today. Four that we're going to cover. One is real light. We just going to talk about it because it was a no decision. There's always, I'm Marcus, the debt-free dad, where we do attorney reactions to current events, trending news. As always, if you get some value out of this content, like, subscribe, share, or if you want to become official co-counsel, you can definitely hit that join button below where you get early access to content. Now, there's a few interesting things. Let's start off with the easiest thing to talk about that people probably care the less about. We had a conversation earlier this week on Diddy's bond, and the judge ultimately said, "I need more time to think about it." I think that his ass not going nowhere. He probably shouldn't go anywhere, considering what he's charged with and what appears to be a history of violence and intimidation. That's just me. That's how I think it's going to play out. I'm not sure when the court is going to convene to make a final determination, but I don't think it's looking favorable for him. So that's just topic number one. That's not even a story because nobody really cares about it. Now, topic number two is interesting. Our next two topics are about court cases, court decisions. We're going to talk a little bit about Donald Trump, President-elect. Let me give him his proper respect. President-elect Trump, or former President Trump, whichever one you want to say, and his hush money trial that has been postponed indefinitely. We're going to talk a little bit about how could his trial be postponed indefinitely. And hey, shout out, hey, it's probably going to go away. It's probably going to go away. I know some people are excited. Some people are livid, like, "Oh man, the justice system doesn't work for people like that." I mean, call it what you want to, but I mean, I'm gonna just be honest. If I was the president-elect and I had 34 convictions, I would probably do what I need to do, or make sure I have people in place to give me decisions to do what I need to do to make sure those things go away. So, I mean, you can call it what you want. You can say the justice system isn't fair. I'm going to say I think most people would do it if they were in that situation. I know I would. And if you didn't do it, I would say you were probably not that smart or even foolish. That's just kind of my thought. So the first story we're going to talk about President Trump and his 34 convictions that he had for the hush money thing. And I know when I did the story, just kind of talking about it, somebody in the comments blasting me was like, he wasn't convicted. A judge has to determine a conviction. And I don't even know why I engaged it with a back and forth over what a conviction is, because they clearly didn't know. And I'm pretty sure I know what a conviction is. But it looks like it's been postponed indefinitely. So we're going to tune in, watch this news story about it being postponed indefinitely. They actually have an attorney on the show who does a bit of a legal analysis. But I'm going to be honest, I don't know if they actually read the opinion in that Supreme Court case that related to the president's immunity from criminal actions and how it relates to whether or not his actions were an official act. Because they got the analysis right, but they missed the most important part of the analysis. So let's go ahead, jump in, and dive in and talk about it. Let's go and get this video queued up. I thought I had everything set up already.
But first, the judge overseeing Donald Trump's New York criminal case has postponed the president-elect's sentencing indefinitely. Trump was convicted back in May on 34 counts of falsifying business records related to hush money payments made to adult film actress Stormy Daniels while he was running for president the first time. Trump was set to face sentencing this month, but Judge Juan Merchan agreed to wait to allow Trump's legal team to argue for a full dismissal of the case. CBS News legal contributor and Loyola Law School professor Jessica Levinson is back with more. So, Jessica, talk to us about the arguments that Trump's lawyers will be making for.
Now, real quick, if I was that judge, I mean, I can understand. I wouldn't say if I was that judge, but I can understand what judge would be the one to go through with the sentencing of the president-elect who's going to take over office in the next month and some change. I don't know. I think that's crazy. I think anyone who didn't see this coming or think it's unfair is just being completely unrealistic, because I think any president in that position would exercise the authority the court gave him. But let's check out this analysis. Then we're going to turn briefly to the U.S. Supreme Court's decision, and we're going to talk about a big point that they missed.
Jessica, talk to us about the arguments that Trump's lawyers will be making for a dismissal.
So the arguments they'll be making are essentially two tracks here. One depends on the Supreme Court's decision in that big immunity case, where very briefly the Supreme Court said when it comes to presidents and former presidents, there's immunity from criminal prosecution for official acts. So
I think everybody would generally agree that that makes sense. If I'm the commander in chief, I'm performing an official act. That official act has some criminal exposure. I think that's something that if you ask most people, should the president be immune from official acts? I don't know. I don't think most people would argue with that. So that was point number one of the Supreme Court's opinion. Presidents are immune from potential criminal exposure as long as their acts are official acts.
There's immunity from criminal prosecution for official acts. So question number one really is, are any of the acts that form the basis of this conviction official acts? I think because of the facts of this case, the answer is probably no. Question number two is, can we even sentence in this case because we have not a normal criminal defendant, but we have the president-elect? And that's been one of the other arguments that President Trump's team has brought forward. Then finally, Lana, the question really becomes, if we can move forward with sentencing, when will it happen? Will it happen before January 20th, before the inauguration, or would it be postponed until after the entire presidential administration? I just want to remind everybody, Judge Merchan, the first judge in the country to ever have to confront these questions.
Yeah, it is entirely
the first judge in the country to determine if the president should actually, he was already convicted, should he actually be sentenced? Or is it lawful in light of these new Supreme Court rulings? I mean, I just personally don't think nobody's going to want that smoke. I think everybody's going to take that football and punt that thing 60 yards and steer clear away from it.
entirely unprecedented. And we can dig into that some more, but I want you to lay out for our viewers what prosecutors are arguing, because they've already said that they're going to oppose any efforts to dismiss the case entirely. Do we expect this legal fight to continue into Trump's time in the White House?
Well, in terms of the appeals, that is absolutely possible, because we know that Judge Merchan at some point will have to make a decision about what, Lana, you and I just talked about, which is, what about immunity? What about whether or not you can move forward and sentence somebody who is the president-elect of the United States? So there are some legal questions here, which, as we said, are really matters of first impression. You can absolutely believe that the losing party could appeal those up. And it's very difficult to see how all of the appeals would be done before January 20th. Again, we've never been here before where there's a pending criminal case against a sitting president. But it is important for people to know we have a jury verdict in this case. We don't have a lot of legal guideposts, but one thing I would tell people is the criminal justice system likes finality and they like to respect jury verdicts. So I think what we're going to be looking at is maybe fights more realistically around the timing of sentencing than actually having the entire case dismissed.
So, Jessica, given that this is all without precedent, and what you said about it potentially being appealed upward, how will this ultimately be determined? Do you imagine that it's going to require the Supreme Court to further weigh in on this? And is it even possible just to delay sentencing until after the Trump administration?
Possibly.
I'll take the last question first, which is, yes, it is possible to delay sentencing. I mean, we have been here before in the sense of there are other criminal cases where judges say we're going to delay sentencing for, and sometimes it's an illness or it's medical treatment, surgery, for instance. We've never had to delay sentencing for a presidential administration, but there is a legal roadmap for something is happening and we're going to delay sentencing. Now, in terms of, you asked me great questions about, the appeals. Could this could this case make its way all the way back to the Supreme Court? So we need a federal issue to get to the Supreme Court, and
this is a state one.
Right, great point, except that the federal issue now might be that there's a state court judge applying that immunity decision. And potentially you could see an argument that he's not applying it directly. Supreme Court, give us guidance about what you really meant when it came to this immunity decision.
And the federal issue is also, he's the president-elect. All right, Jessica Levinson, thank you.
All right, real quick. So let's talk about this real quick, because I'm going to show y'all. Let me see. I want to pull it up before I show y'all. It's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Is 8 words in the entire opinion of Trump versus the United States that was appealed to the Supreme Court that are important, that I have yet to see anybody on the news talk about. I seen one media outlet talk about it when the decision first came out. Everybody else, I'll be honest, I don't know if they read the entire opinion. I didn't read the entire opinion, but I read the analysis. I don't really care about the facts because I knew the facts. I read the analysis and I read maybe 2 of the dissents. There were 3. I read 2 of the dissents because I wanted to know what was going on. But personally, you can postpone sentencing until whenever. Somebody get in a car accident, they can't come to the sentencing. I've seen this happen. I've seen sentences postponed 1, 2, 3 years. I've just seen these type of things happen for whatever reason. 2, I'm going to be honest, I think it's just going to all go away. I think it's going to be a big dismissal, in my personal opinion. I don't think any state judge wants to smoke, right or wrong, of having to be the first person to hand down and bang their gavel to a sentencing of the president in light of a new Supreme Court opinion that nobody really knows how to apply. And this state judge is supposed to be the first person to apply it and get it right. That's actually kind of crazy. But it is a strong chance it's going to go back to the Supreme Court. Let me go and look at the comments before I pull up the 8 words in the opinion that they forgot about that are the most important. Not a federal judge. Let's see. I agree. It was contrived for the sake of lawfare, not for justice, I'm saying. When you get a chance, read about this. Just in Illinois Governor J.B. Pritzker that signed into the law that allowed illegal immigrants to become police officers. Bro, what? Yo. Man. These, oh my God. That's a whole nother. I could do a show on that for 2 hours. Oh my God. It's just a catastrophe what a lot of states are doing, trying to handle the migrant crisis. And it really shows a lack of leadership, creativity, and concern for the citizens on all parts, in my personal opinion. I say save it till later. That's definitely an option. Lock them up. Hey, most powerful man on the planet? Nah, I don't know if that's going to happen. Hey, I get it. Generally, when you charged with a crime and convicted of a crime by a jury of your peers, there should be a sentencing, but is a very unique situation. That's all I can say. The underlying crime has never been stated. Jury just had to pick one of 3 possible to legitimize the felony charges instead of expired misdemeanors or contrived. Yo, I'm gonna be honest, and I said this before. I never did a video on it, but I did say this before. That is an actual great comment, and I could tell you had your finger on the pulse of what's going on with the trial. Because with regard to those 34 convictions, your point is a good one. I looked at it. He actually has an amazing argument to challenge all of those convictions on appeal and actually win because of the expired misdemeanors, in my personal opinion. So it's funny because I've never seen it brought up, and honestly, I understand why. My guy just won. If I'm his attorney, I'm like, my guy just won the presidency. I don't even need to go that far if I got the Department of Justice already stating that they don't want to prosecute presidents, and I got a Supreme Court case that's favorable. But you are 100% right. He really does. As whether you love him, hate him, like him, dislike him, President Trump does have a legitimate legal argument to appeal these state convictions and potentially win because the misdemeanors were expired. So, hey, shout out to you. That's a good comment. Let me go ahead. I need to stop sharing this screen and I need to pull up the case. I want to pull up the case so you all can see it. Let me get this pulled up. Share screen because I want to show y'all the 8 words that makes all of the difference. And it is on, we're going to go to page 26. This judicial opinion is 119 pages. The courts ruled Supreme Court ruled 6-3 that the president can't be charged for criminal conduct as long as that conduct is official duty. Now, and that's right. Whether it was official duty or not, that's correct. Here's where it gets interesting, because before I read it, we got to talk about this a little bit. Courts are bodies whose sole job is to find out what's going on. So the whole purpose of going to the court, when you go through the trial, pick the jury, have the witnesses, present evidence, is to find out what happened, what is the closest version to the actual truth, and let the jurors evaluate that. So in any court, the number one thing is we have to have a mechanism so we can determine what is true, what happened. And that only happens by questioning witnesses and presenting evidence. Now, I want y'all to take that into consideration when y'all see these 8 words. Don't forget he's on record asking for 11 out of the votes. For some stupid reason, everyone's just afraid of him. I mean, the most powerful person in the world. I can see why it's. I can see why a regular person would probably. I can see why a state court judge would be like, "Oh man, I don't know." Everybody ain't willing to stand on business like that. Me and my boy just had this conversation today where the question was, would you do the right thing if it meant losing your livelihood? And I was like, 98% people won't do that. 98% people won't do that. I know. I was in a job where I lost my job because I was like, nah, this is wrong and we're going to stand on this. And everybody I asked who was older, they was like, man, just put your head down and keep on moving. And I was like, nah, I can't do that. I can't sleep at night knowing that I'm letting the wrong thing go on. Whether they know it or not, I know it's the wrong thing. And so, but everybody's not built like that. Now, let's take a look at this opinion. We can scroll down and see this is Trump versus the United States. Now, remember, if it's an official act, so it's pretty much 2 things. If it's not an official act, the president can be charged with a crime. I think we all agree with that. If I do something that personally benefits me, and it's not an official act, me trying to carry out my executive authorities, I shouldn't be able to have any type of immunity for conduct that may have criminal exposure. I think that makes sense. I think most people agree with it. The next standard is if it's an official act, presidential immunity applies, can't be charged with a crime. Now, here's the interesting part. How do we determine what's an official act? Let's say we went to trial to determine if the president's conduct was an official act. We have to do some type of fact finding. What does that mean? That means we're going to have to talk to people, put witnesses on the stand, talk about, if it's not some type of executive privilege, talk about what was the nature of the conversations and the situations before and after the president made this decision that's at issue. because we got to look at all the facts and circumstances so the court can make a determination of, okay, we've listened to the evidence and this is in fact an official conduct. But the Supreme Court, they gave the president a lot of authority. And I don't know if you all remember when this decision came out, I saw a lot of Democratic swinging news media outlets was like, oh, the Supreme Court just gave Trump unlimited power. And again, I think that shows how sometimes you got to think. They were arguing about the Supreme Court giving a decision that gave President Trump more power if he were to win. This was before the election, if he were to win. They didn't even realize that, we're in office right now. If they made a decision that gave the president power, who's the president right now? But everybody just kind of looked into the future and didn't think of how to use it. But these are the 8 words that the court did. I'm going to read this paragraph. But the 8 words are, courts may not inquire into the president's motives. Those words right there, courts may not inquire into the president's motives. If you can't inquire as to whether the president's motives or what his motives were, you can't make a determination that an act was official or unofficial. So if I'm the president, I'm going to say everything is official, because you can't cross-examine witnesses or do direct examination of witnesses to find out. It says, in dividing official from unofficial conducts, court may not inquire into the president's motives. Such an inquiry would risk exposing even the most obvious instances of official conduct to judicial examination on the mere allegations of improper purpose, thereby intruding on Article 2 interest that immunity seeks to protect. It would seriously cripple the proper and effective administration of public affairs as entrusted to the executive branch of government. That's a big deal. I don't know if you all get that, but the president can't be charged with a crime for official acts. But the Supreme Court said courts can't inquire into the president's motives. That essentially means you can't inquire into whether the president's acts were official or not. So the president, if I'm the president, I'm going to always assert that everything is official. A lot of power given to the president right there. A lot of power given to the president. And one thing that, again, you say what you want to say, no matter what role you're in, you never know if you become the CEO of a company or the president of some organization, you never know the limits of your power until you push. So with this language, all it takes is a president who's willing to push to see what the limits of how far can I push the limits of my power with this court decision before somebody actually say, okay, we have to give some clarity and granularity. Now, the dissents picked up on this big time. There was a 6-3 opinion in favor of no criminal charges for the president for official acts. 3 of the dissenting opinions all said, hey, we generally agree with that. But if you don't allow a court to inquire into the president's motives, you'll never be able to determine if the president's motives were towards an official or unofficial act. So it really, what you're trying to accomplish is negated because you don't give the court the authority to inquire into it. But the other side is saying, well, if the court inquires into the president's motives, it intrudes on the separation of powers between the executive and the judicial branch. It's an absolute mess, honestly. I'm gonna be honest. Like, I get the opinion. I'm not a fan of this language right here. I think the general rule I could be on board with. The general rule, official acts, president can't be charged. Unofficial acts, he can be charged. But you have to be able to have a mechanism to determine what's an official act and what's an unofficial act. It can't come to me as the judge and I just look at it and say, well, that's an official act, but that's an unofficial act without hearing evidence to determine what the motives of the commander-in-chief was. So I think generally I agree with it. I'm not a fan of this language because I think it's counterintuitive. And the whole purpose of court is for fact finding to determine the truth. And if you can't inquire into the person's motives, every other instance, if someone is charged with a crime, you can always determine their motives. You can bring them on the stand and, hey, I want to look for motive and opportunity. If you got motive and opportunity, if I could prove motive and opportunity, I probably could connect your ass and line up what I need to line up to get this conviction. So it's kind of a mess. What I would like to see, honestly, rather than the charges be dismissed, I would rather see the state court in New York articulate a good federal question that allows this to go to the Supreme Court so they can provide some clarity and we can figure out what the fuck they need to do. And honestly, the Supreme Court probably gonna be like, nah, we not going. I've never seen the Supreme Court render a decision, give out a new test or standard, and then immediately say, well, let us re-explain what's going on. Normally, they'll put out a rule. The rule is kind of confusing how this is. And then some courts will say this, some courts will say this, and then they'll come back and say, okay, let us clear it up for you guys, since y'all clearly don't know what the hell we meant, and we didn't articulate it in a way to say what we meant. So that's going to be interesting. Hey, this isn't a left thing or a right thing. This is just what the justices said. And fortunately or unfortunately, depending how you look at it, 6 of the justices lean more towards the conservative side, and they are in favor of expanding the executive's power. And that's what they did big time with this opinion. So I don't know. I thought that was an interesting story to talk about. Let's go ahead and hit up some of the comments, and then we're going to pivot in this second story and talk about how a prosecutor who was completely unethical allowed Jussie Smollett to walk away from crimes that he clearly committed and everybody was aware that he committed, in my personal opinion. Let's see. Hey, I'm gonna be honest. I've said this same thing. I've said this exact same statement. Telling someone to find votes isn't indicative of telling someone to fabricate votes. And I've listened to that conversation because I was like, well, what did he say? And I listened to that conversation, and that was the first thing that I actually thought. I was like, I'm just going, hey, I called it like I see it. If he would have said something that would have been like, oh, yeah, you can't be like, hey, bro. I just like, hey, we down this many votes. You need to look and find them. See, if they did, you got to look and find them. It's just ambiguous enough where it could be argued either way. I don't think it was a knockdown thing of him asking for him, and I don't think it was a knockdown thing of him not asking for him. But I think it was ambiguous enough where it could be argued either way on either side. And I don't know if that was him being smart or he just happened to say it in a way where it could be argued either side, but it ended up working out in his favor. I'm from Indianapolis, and I care about my fellow Americans in Dalton. Hey, what's going on? Hey, shout out to Indianapolis. They got some good restaurants up there. I was in Carmel. Great restaurants up there. All right. Let's see. Motive is everything, even as stated by the FBI. So I do not agree with this exemption. I agree. We on the same page, co-counsel. We on the same page. I agree with the general rule, but I'm not in favor of not being able to look at the president's motives to determine if his act was an official or unofficial one. I think that it don't make any damn sense to me. All right, let's go ahead and pivot to story number 2. Now, we got a few videos because and these videos are a lot shorter. I say maybe 2 minutes for these videos, but we got to get the background on. We got to get the background because I want y'all to see how, if you know people in high places, it can go a long way into allowing you to circumvent the law. As jacked up as it is, I would love for the law to apply to everybody consistently, but I mean, that's just not the nature of what it is. If you have more resources, you have a better ability to fight your charges, make them potentially go away. If you got money to hire an entourage of attorneys, or a private firm who has a abundance of resources, you could potentially be in a better position than if you go with a court assigned counsel who got 300 cases. Now, I will tell you, as somebody who used to be a public defender, if I got a criminal charge, probably two of the top three attorneys I would want are public defenders. But from a resource standpoint, the more resources you have, the more people you know in powerful positions, the more things can get taken care of and agreements can get taken care of. And we're going to show exactly how to. We looked at that on a large scale. Now we're going to bring it down. That's why I ordered these videos this way. We went president, then we're going to go state level, then we're going to break it down, and we're going to finish up and talk about an election at the Thornton Township that looks like it has a couple of terrible candidates, but we'll determine that at a later date when we get to this, at a later time when we get to that video. Let me go and pull up the next video because I want everybody just to have a little bit of background on how we got here. You all remember this, and this was the most ridiculous shit I ever seen in my life. As soon as I heard this, I was like, man, this is a bold-faced lie. Ain't no black guys in the coldest day in the world in Chicago going to harass somebody wearing MAGA hats. I just don't believe it. I knew as soon as I heard the facts, I was like, nah, that sounds like a bold-faced lie. That sounds disingenuous.
And this is our Western edition. We're going to begin tonight in Chicago, where police are looking for Jussie Smollett. Our CBS Chicago station WBBM obtained surveillance video of two brothers who say they were hired by Smollett buying items to help stage an attack. Dean Reynolds is on this story.
In a stunning twist, Jussie Smollett, the 36-year-old actor, is now charged with disorderly conduct for filing a false police report about an attack he alleged happened to him in Chicago on January 29th. The offense is a felony and could carry jail time. Smollett has refused
I think his
for
ass should have
days
went to
to
jail
meet with
personally.
police detectives despite repeated requests to explain himself. Late tonight, his attorneys released a statement saying, like any other citizen, Mr. Smollett enjoys the presumption of innocence. We intend to conduct a thorough investigation and to mount an aggressive defense.
And the reason I want y'all to see this, because I want y'all to see how he goes from accusations to conviction, accusations to no charges, to conviction being overturned. And again, I generally agree. I 100% agree. If you've been convicted by a jury, you should be sentenced and do whatever the sanction is. But when you know people in high places, sometimes things work out favorably.
Inside the Cook County Courthouse today, the investigation picked up steam as two brothers sent the case testified before a grand jury.
I can't tell you what color their eyes were. I can't tell you. And I did not see.
Jury.
I can't tell you.
Hold on,
what
real
color
quick.
Picked up steam.
I just want to show y'all
two
something.
brothers central.
Come on now. Let's just be honest. Let's just be honest. Like, if they'd have showed me the picture of these two dudes and like, yeah, they had some MAGA hats on, I'm gonna be like, nah, bruh. And the weather was like -5 degrees that day. And -5 degrees, like low key, if you live in the city, I don't know if it's like that. I actually like the wintertime because if you look at crime statistics, crime numbers go down in the wintertime because it's too goddamn cold. Nobody trying to be out at 5 in the morning. But everybody knew the story was sketch. When I see the pictures of the alleged attackers, I was like, I don't know, Jussie Smollett, you might be capping. He actually gets the where did I put it? I don't have my props here today. Oh, somebody stole my hat. Well, he gets the cap hat, but let's go ahead and finish seeing this so we can see how this turned into
the case testified before a grand jury.
I can't tell you what color their eyes were. I can't tell you. And I did not see anything except the second person I saw running away.
Smollett has said that in the early hours of January 29th, two racist homophobes in black masks beat him and hung a rope around his neck, yelling, "This is MAGA country." The two brothers were seen on this surveillance video that night.
You know what is annoying about this too? Like, this is done like what are you trying to do? Like, influence start a riot, change how people perceive something? Because I know this was around election time and the MAGA movement was going on. I don't know. Yeah, it's just cap. Those two dudes jack you. Yeah, that sounds suspect. A few bad ones get away with. That is better than an overly draconian legal system. I agree. Let's skip to the next story because we know what happened. This dude just capped about this story. I think everybody who heard it, maybe y'all got excited, like, oh man, that's terrible that happened. But as soon as I heard it, it just didn't make sense for me. Let's go ahead and skip to the next story so we can see how the prosecutor screwed this up.
County State.
All right. So we're going to talk about a prosecutor who actually knows the Jussie's family. And there were even text communications between the prosecutor and the defendant in this case, telling him to just keep calm and be consistent. And you can actually hear during the course of many interviews that Jussie Smollett did, where he was like, I've been consistent. So I want y'all to see where this goes terribly wrong. He commits this crime. They investigate. It's all cap. It's all a lie. The prosecutor who's in charge with prosecuting this, the DA, is a friend of the family's. At one point, she's on the news saying we have enough evidence to move forward. Then another point, she's like, I don't know. But I want y'all to follow along. Bullshit story. Now let's look at the relationship and the prosecutor, the original DA in this case.
State's Attorney Kim Foxx and her office misled the public time and time again while handling the Jussie Smollett investigation. That, according to a report released today. Earlier this month, Smollett was found guilty of lying about being attacked, but the state's attorneys initially dropped that case, raising some serious questions and doubt from the public. Our Charlie DeMar has been going through the report, joins us live now in our Street Side studio. Charlie?
And Brad, with the Jussie Smollett trial over, the 60-page report was released, and it outlines Kim Foxx and the state's attorneys' handling of this case, really outlining how they bungled this case.
Now, remember, if I'm the district attorney and I know you personally, the only way I can move forward with this is I would have to recuse myself. And the conflict that I would have, because I know you as the defendant, extends to persons within my office. So the proper way to handle it, and they're going to talk about this, but I want to give y'all the background so y'all can know and follow what's going on. The proper thing that she should have done is, I know you. I can't prosecute this case. We have to get a special prosecutor in. Normally they bring in a prosecutor from a neighboring county to come in and they do the prosecution. In this instance, she has text message exchange with him. She originally moves to proceed with the prosecution. Looks like she changes her mind. Then she says, I can't do this. I have to recuse myself. She recuses herself and she creates a new position and appoints one of her prosecutors in her office to that position to actually prosecute the matter against Jussie Smollett. Where is the problem? You have to recuse yourself. Your conflict extends to your office. You have to get a prosecutor to prosecute the case who has no tie to your office. She created a position, moved someone in her office in that position and said, go ahead and move forward with this case. So let's go ahead and finish watching how she bungled this case and is actually terrible.
From start to finish for why this case was dismissed, to the public explanations given to why it was dismissed, and even who Kim Foxx was talking to throughout the investigation. Special Prosecutor Dan Webb says Kim Foxx in the Cook County State's Attorney's Office may have violated legal ethics by abusing its discretion.
I was appointed a special prosecutor because Judge Tooman believed that the circumstances under which the Smollett case was dismissed without a trial was not supported by the evidence.
According to the report, Foxx illegally recused herself, but instead of publicly acknowledging it, she ignored it to avoid embarrassment. But in an interview with the special prosecutor, even Foxx questioned why Smollett was initially allowed to walk without pleading guilty, only paying $10,000, a fraction of what CPD says the investigation cost in overtime pay, and allowing the actor to perform community service at Rainbow Push, to which Foxx told the office of the special prosecutor Operation Push might have been too easy for him, adding that with her recused, those in charge just wanted the case to go away. Quote, they wanted Mr. Smollett out of town, she said.
And in this particular case, we did this case like we'd done many others. But the failure was that we didn't communicate well.
The failure was that she didn't recuse herself and allow a prosecutor from a neighboring jurisdiction to actually prosecute the case. She didn't recuse herself. She hired someone in her office to move forward with everything. And they essentially gave him a deferred prosecution. A deferred prosecution is you're charged with a crime. I look at it and I say, okay, this is a crime. You kind of suck, but you don't have a lot of criminal exposure. This is your first charge. So you know what we're going to do? We're going to hold this case open. We're going to continue it for whenever. And if you comply with these conditions, we'll dismiss the charges. And the conditions is normally community service, stay out of trouble, and pay some fine and some court costs. And because he was able to comply, he paid the $10,000, he did everything, they ultimately dismissed the charge. So that's essentially what happened and how we got here.
But Webb called that statement a lie. The state's attorney publicly said there were 5,700 cases handled just like Smollett's. But when asked for examples, the office couldn't provide a single case handled like the actors.
Because they were friends. No other cases were handled like his because you weren't friends with those other people.
The report calls Fox's statement unacceptable for an office that must be transparent and maintain public confidence. Fox's office initially charged the actor with 16 counts and then, in an unannounced hearing, dropped the case. Webb said the decision represented a major failure of operations. And the report shows that Fox was still communicating with Jussie Smollett, Jussie's sister, even after he was a suspect. At the time, Fox publicly denied those claims. Now,
all right. So that's where we are. Now we're going to talk about, well, why did the court overturn his conviction? So he tells the stupid ass story about some black guys being MAGA in -5-degree weather and whipping his ass, which don't make any sense. He's charged with 16 counts. The prosecutor is a friend of the family. She's having communication with the sister and text messaging him throughout this process. Initially, they're like, hey, we got enough evidence to charge this. We're going to charge it. She needs to recuse herself because of the relationship with the family. She fails to do so. She creates a new position. She puts a prosecutor in her office in that position to move forward with the case. Instead of prosecuting the case, what happens is they give him a deferred prosecution. You pay $10,000, do community service, and stay out of trouble, and we'll make this charge go away. Which is a great deal. Anytime you can get a deferred prosecution, do it. People are like, man, I had people who was like, I had one client, she had a deferred prosecution to get everything dismissed. She was like, man, I'm not doing no community service. I want to go to trial. I'm like, yo, there's like 5 witnesses here. Isn't that good? Just take the deferred prosecution and make it go away. And what happened? She went to trial. The 5 witnesses all went like that and said it was her, and she was convicted. Then she was like, you think we can get that deferred prosecution? I was like, no, that's not how it works. But he gets the deferred prosecution. He does what he needs to do. The charges are dismissed. Now, because she failed to recuse herself, a court looked at it and said, hey, something's not right here. We needed a special prosecutor to look at this. So a special prosecutor comes in from a neighboring county, which District Attorney Fox should have done. When this special prosecutor comes in, he says, you know what? We got enough to charge this guy. We charge this guy. We get a conviction. And now that we got this conviction, this dude is convicted and he has this conviction on his record. That's where everything is. And now we're going to look at why this was overturned by the court. And amazingly, I actually agree with it. But you all let me know what y'all think in the comments. Do y'all agree with why the court overturned this, or is it just me? I tend to agree with it. I think the prosecutor jacked it up. And I'll be honest, I think she jacked it up on purpose. Like, she should be brought up on ethics violations with the Bar Association.
And justice lead a new twist to a case that has already played out with multiple dramatic turns. Actor Jussie Smollett, as you might recall, was convicted in 2021 on 5 counts for staging a fake attack on himself, paying 2 men who he knew from the show Empire to assault him while they shouted racist and homophobic slurs on a Chicago street.
This dude got 2 guys who was on the TV show with him to do it, or he just knew him from. That's crazy as hell. You could at least got 2 strangers to do it. This dude got 2 people he know. That's crazy as hell.
Racist and homophobic slurs on a Chicago street. Today, the Illinois Supreme Court overturned Smollett's conviction. The ruling was not on the merits of the case, but on who tried it. The state's attorney originally dropped the charges after Smollett paid a fine and performed some community service. And then a special prosecutor was appointed, and that special prosecutor landed the conviction. Here to help us understand all of this is CNN's legal analyst, Laura Coates, who, of course, also anchors Laura Coates Live, which airs at 11 p.m. only here on CNN. She gives fascinating insights and all sorts of things, especially on big cases like this one when they're grabbing headlines. Laura, so good to have you back.
Thanks, Jake.
Thank you for being here. So this was a 5-0 opinion. The Illinois Supreme Court Justice Elizabeth Rockford wrote, "What would be more unjust than the resolution of any one criminal case would be holding from this court that the state was not bound to honor agreements upon which people have detrimentally relied." So
that was it right there. It would be crazy for this court not to hold agreements for which people detrimentally relied. Fox should have recused herself. She didn't. She got someone in her office to give him this sweetheart deal. He did what he was supposed to do. Some judge looks at it, said, this is wrong. A special prosecutor comes in, says, no, we got enough for a conviction, and actually gets the conviction. His attorneys challenge it, and the court says, wait. They said it wasn't on the merits of the case. So all of the facts and evidence was there to prove that you're a liar, that you're a liar and the truth ain't in you, as older black folks like to say. You're a liar and the truth ain't in you. But it wasn't overturned on the merits of the case. It was overturned because the defendant, Jussie, detrimentally relied on the agreement. He was not aware that the prosecutor should have stepped away. He was not aware that the prosecutor who she got to do the case didn't have the authority to do so, because their whole office should have been conflicted out and it should have been someone else. So from his perspective, she was the district attorney. The guy who was handling it and gave him the sweetheart deal was a prosecutor. There's nothing to the defendant, to Jussie, that would give him any inclination that the people he were getting the agreement from, who he was making the arrangements, with, were not the prosecutors. So solely because he detrimentally relied that these persons were the right persons to be able to make this charge go away in exchange for him doing community service and paying $10,000, the court said he relied on it. There was no reason for him not to believe that the people who were giving him the sweetheart deal didn't have the authority to do so. And because of that, he got away with one. And I would love to see Fox lose her law license for this. Personally, that's just me.
This was more about procedure.
It was about a contract, essentially. This all comes down to whether a deal really is a deal. Remember, initially, they chose not to prosecute him. They had a Latin term, noli prosequi, which essentially means not wanting to prosecute. As part of that, $10,000 forfeit of his bond, hours of community service, and that was the only punishment. That word's important later. Based on that, he relied. He fulfilled those obligations. And then they said, you know what? Never mind. We're now going to still prosecute you.
Double jeopardy.
It's double jeopardy. It's due process violation, which is what the court actually held. And they said, listen, how is the prosecutor's office to have credibility if no one can rely on what you say is the deal? And more importantly, he's already fulfilled the obligations. Imagine, if you will, you and I had a contract. I did everything on my end. And then you said, well, that's great. Never mind. They applied the same principles of a kind of contract law to this case. It's the right decision, irrespective of the underlying facts, everyone points to, because it reminds you a lot of what contract law is about. A deal is a deal. The benefit of the bargain, I upheld my end.
So it's a completely different case, but it's not unlike what happened with Bill Cosby in the sense that the prosecutor agreed to something, and then they changed their mind and decided to punish him anyway, and maybe they shouldn't have entered into that first deal. Who knows? But
Yeah.
you got to stand by your word, especially if you're the state.
It's such an appropriate analogy. The
That's a
court
good-
even
that's
looks
a
at
good
it as
point.
well. And even more so, it's the reason why you go against your word. You remember there was so much chatter. There was outrage from Donald Trump to then Mayor Rahm Emanuel and everyone in between who had a real problem with this particular deal. They thought it was a sweetheart celebrity deal. They would say no average person would actually have this. Kim Fox, who I'll have on tonight on my show at
Kim
11.
Fox, she was the DA.
She was the DA. We'll talk to her tonight about what she thinks about this decision as well. They were very angry that this would be the deal given. Just like the sounding of the alarms that happened with the Bill Cosby case, albeit under very different circumstances.
Completely different case. But
This is the same concept. A deal is a deal. And if
That's
you're the
crazy.
prosecutors in these cases, we are a
I agree
fungible
with
asset
it,
as
but it's
each
crazy that it
prosecutor.
happened.
The government is who you are. So if the government cannot be trusted to make a deal, imagine what happens with people who are supposed to be cooperators. People who say, okay, I'll take this plea. You're not going to recommend a sentence or not the maximum sentence. And then they just say, never mind, because there is public
Well, good point.
perception and public outrage. You cannot rely on that. And frankly, prosecutors' offices would fail in their ultimate ability to secure a lot of deals if no one believed them.
Yeah.
Hey, very well said. Again, these are two instances where people are going to appear to evade convictions that they have, and the system just sometimes fucking work like that. People know people in high places, and it just works itself out. I mean, honestly, of both of these cases, this gonna sound wild. I know y'all probably gonna beat me up in the comments. I'm actually of all the cases of the case with Trump and how his charges may go away, his conviction may go away, versus this case, how it may go away. This case is actually worse, honestly. Like how this case is going away is actually worse than how Trump charges will potentially go away, in my personal opinion. This case, the charges went away because the prosecutor had a relationship with the defendant's family and did the wrong thing that ultimately led to a wrong result. And by the time the state tried to fix it, it was too late. At least on the issue of Trump's conviction, it wasn't because he knew the fucking judge. It was the way the court articulated the law. So now, whether it's bad law or good law, hey, it's debatable. I told you I agree with one part, don't agree with the other part. But at least one was more based in a little bit of law. One was more based in law, and the other one, I think personally, was more based in corruption. There was no real legal basis. But the prosecutor, did they really mess up? Neither. I mean, I'm gonna be honest. Was it really a purpose? You think she messed up on purpose? You think she did that on accident, or it was done on purpose because she knew there would be a mechanism for him to probably overturn that conviction at some point? I don't know. Y'all let me know what y'all think. I actually think this situation is way more corrupt than the situation that we explained in the first story. Y'all let me know y'all thought, but at least the first story was based in law. It may be bad law, but at least it's based in law. This one was just based on the prosecutor not doing the right thing, and she gave her friend an easy out. And that's terrible, in my personal opinion. Y'all let me know what y'all think in the comments as well. Let me see. Fox is not running for re-election, as she shouldn't. She shouldn't even have a law license, in my personal opinion. Her law license should be finito. Don't believe my line, cross eyes, or two left ears. I guess they were white with MAGA. Hey, power, privilege, sometimes your hue, they can all access resources. All of that shit contributes. If that wasn't Jussie Smollett and it was Deshaunte Jackson ass would be in jail right now. So there is levels to it. The same benefits that is about who you know and what resources you had. And Jussie Smollett knew the right person. Yeah. It's going to be interesting too. Side note, let me backtrack on Trump real quick. It's going to be interesting to see what Trump's pick for Attorney General does. Because I'm very familiar with Pam Bondi. very smart woman, very ambitious, and that's going to be interesting. All right, now let's go ahead. We got a few more stories, and we're going to pivot. So we went from the federal level to more of a state thing. Now we're going to go into the local municipalities. And this is one because, hey, shout out to you, no apologies. You just told me the last chat was like, hey, you think Tiffany Henyard is terrible? You need to take a look at this guy. And I was like, what? Who could this person be? And so I pulled up a few stories.
Well, the headline from Harvey's
I pulled up a few stories because I was like, well, who could this mayor be who people are saying could potentially be worse than Tiffany Henyard? I was like, I don't know. Let me do a little bit of research. I will tell you, I looked at the city of Harvey and they had some wild mayors. The mayor before this mayor, I actually looked it up. Let me see. What was his name? All right, the current mayor of Harvey is Christopher Clark. The former mayor was a guy by the name of Eric Kellogg. He was absolutely wild. And he was there from, keep in mind, look, Eric Kellogg was the mayor of Harvey from 2003 to 2019. This dude misused federal funds for personal use. He actually vetoed an ordinance that would have allowed the sheriff office to act as an inspector general for the city to be able to investigate persons and government entities within the city to identify fraud, waste, and abuse. Hold on, it gets worse. This is the wildest one. He shook down the strip club owner for cash payments in exchange for allowing prostitution to occur in the strip club. Yo, that's actually wild. And his cousin and his brother were also implicated. His cousin was the one who was collecting bribes. And so Harvey has apparently had a history of having some mayors that are sketch. Like, yo, low key, it should be a channel directed to us bad mayors. But before you even get on Mayor Clark, I just put in mayor of Harvey, Illinois, and he wasn't the first person to pop up. It was Eric Kellogg was the first person to pop up. And as terrible as that guy was, he was in office from 2003 to 2019, which leads me to believe and place a significant amount of blame on the people who elect. Like, you can get a bad mayor the first term, but unless he just ran unopposed, like I don't know how a bad person stays in office from 2003 to 2019. That's absolutely insane. And okay, if you select a bad mayor and it's a one-term mayor, like, I really don't blame the residents of the village of Dalton for selecting Tiffany Henyard, because I don't think nobody saw or expected what they got. But if she won election again and stayed 2 more terms, I'd be like, y'all get exactly what y'all deserve. Y'all assume the risk. Is all y'all fault. But so Eric Kellogg was an absolute shit show. He actually may have been worse than Tiffany Henyard. It's the craziest shit that I've ever seen. I thought it was, I was like, man, that guy, I'm stuttering. That's how wild it is. He was the absolute craziest shit I've ever seen as a mayor. It was insane. Yeah, Township trustees Chris Gonzalez, Carmen Carlisle, and Darlene Gray Everett have not disclosed their re-election plans. I wonder if they had enough, regardless of who wins as the supervisor. I know, because there's a deadline on when they if you're going to announce. She started out humble, then the title and the money went to her head. That's what I think. I told somebody, a lot of people gave me flack for this in the chat, because I saw a video where Chris Gonzalez was like, oh, I think we should get Tiffany Henyard. And they interviewed somebody and was like, man, you know what's going on over there in the village? And he was like, what? Like, he had no clue that Tiffany Henyard as mayor and the trustees were at odds at the time when he was like, yeah, let's nominate her and get her to get the seat. So my theory is this. I'm gonna be honest. I think that the trustees of the township thought that she was a little bit naive and they could take advantage of her And little did they know that they was about to get their fucking heads ripped off. But I think that they thought, oh man, she kind of young for a township supervisor. I think that they thought they could possibly pull one over on her, manipulate her to get some things that they may have wanted personally, because I just don't see how that happened. But I agree. She started out humble and then turned into what she was. Oh, he running for his seat. Interesting. Well, I don't know, Paul. I said it in the video. I didn't look at it a lot. I know she was a trustee before and all of that. I know that, but I did look at some videos she had related to previous hearings. And I maybe looked at like 6 to 10. And most times that I saw, before she was supervisor and before she was the mayor, as just her role as a trustee, most times she was actually on what I would probably identify as the right side of the argument. That's just me. It may be some instances because I only looked at 6 to 10 videos, but a lot of times I was like, I think she's on the right side of that argument. Do you think that's why Tiffany believes she is exempt, because other supervisors have done it and gotten away with it? Every politician self-deals. I mean, like, I'll be honest, like, if you're a politician and you don't engage in self-dealing, I'm like kind of going to judge you. So every politician self-deals, but I think that's what people don't like. And that's why, like, I mean, like, come on, let's just be honest. Like, that's one of the things that drives people crazy about President Trump. Like, damn, bro, we know every president is going to self-deal, but do you got to make every government agency have their annual conference at your hotel in DC? Like, so we like our politicians to self-deal in a smart way that's behind the scenes. And I think Tiffany Henyard, we just don't, people generally don't like to see self-dealing when it's so blatant and out front. So I think that's kind of the reason. I think she's trying to play a little bit naive, blaming everything on everybody else. But clearly, these small cities and villages in Illinois have a track record of people just kind of running rogue, and I don't think they knew what they was in for. I think she thinks no one can take her position as supervisor. Good intentions, probably. Yeah, that's fair. So let's take a look at some of the videos of the current mayor, Christopher Clark. Now, before we get into Christopher Clark, and I did a shout out to my guy Hannibal is Hungry. Y'all should go check out his channel because he's really good on all the Dalton drama and what's going on with his videos. And I did a reaction to one of his videos. And but all right, Clark is the current mayor, which is interesting because they also have this weird thing where people serve in roles in multiple cities or counties or villages. So I think he's also a FOIA officer in Calumet County. He's an insurance investigator tasked to ensure that claims are legitimate in Calumet County. And he's the director of the Office of Professional Standards. That's hilarious to be the director of the Office of Professional Standards, but like your professional standards are what people are challenging with you. Yeah, so he holds multiple titles. I'll tell you, I don't think on his face, I don't know. I don't think on his face he has an actual inherent conflict from what those jobs do versus what he would be obligated to do as mayor. I don't think there's no conflict there as a FOIA officer for a neighboring county. And a FOIA officer I wouldn't call myself a FOIA expert, but outside of white collar investigations and litigation, that's probably the next best area that I'm well versed in. And a FOIA officer, I don't see any conflict there. An insurance investigator in a neighboring county to ensure claims are legitimate. I don't see any conflict there with his roles as a mayor. Director of the Office of Professional Standards for a neighboring county. Yeah, I don't see any job conflicts with those. Y'all let me know if y'all see any job conflicts. But I don't see any job conflicts with those. The only conflict I see is how the fuck are you doing all these jobs and being mayor? Like, are these all part-time jobs where you only work 10 hours a week? So it may be something on the time side of the game, but it's a little weird. But let's go ahead and cue up these videos so we can dive in just to see what the media is saying about what's going on in Harvey. And one of these stories, I don't know if it's as bad as it seems, but we'll talk about it.
While the headline from Harvey's mayor today is no new taxes, it's pretty difficult to assess exactly how much of the tax bill that the residents are getting right now that he actually has control over. The mayor calling this press conference this morning in response to pushback from businesses in Harvey over the last month or so. There was an initiative here in the city to collect delinquent taxes from those businesses, and that has stirred them up. The mayor says 465 businesses in Harvey owe millions in back taxes to the city. He says the city of Harvey is currently facing a $149 million budget deficit. It is important to collect those back taxes, he says, instead of asking the residents in Harvey to make up the difference. He points to the recent property tax bills going out in Cook County this week, which have a significant increase in taxes owed by homeowners. Much of that is because of the assessed value of those properties going up significantly this year. The mayor says he wants to form a coalition of local municipalities, especially in the south and west suburbs, to push back on how much residents are being asked to pay.
Okay, let's talk about that. Is that good or bad? Y'all let me know. Is that good or bad? Okay, it's a part-time job. I was about to say, I was like, you got all these. This dude got 3 jobs in another county and the mayor. This dude Jamaican or something. I never seen a guy with so many jobs in my life. Is that good or bad? I don't know how I feel about that story. It was presented as being bad. Now, property taxes went up significantly, and they said in part because the value of the property went up significantly. I'm just going to be honest. That's not anything that's uncommon. Your property value goes up. If your property value goes up, your property taxes are going to go up, and your insurance is going to go up because it costs more to rebuild your home if something happens because the value of your home goes up. So I kind of get it. I know residents are going to be shocked that nobody wanted 3, 4, 5% property tax bill increase, but at least the rationale behind why it's going up is fair. The issue that I think most people had was with businesses. A lot of businesses were striking because those businesses essentially said, hey, the city is holding up our license and our ability to do business if we don't play ball. And they were kind of analogizing it to what we saw or what we know was alleged with Tiffany Henyard. But I think they're different. Y'all let me know what y'all think. And then we're going to watch the rest of this video. From my understanding, Tiffany Henyard's licensing issue wasn't anything about back taxes. It was, hey, if you want to get your license, you have to contribute to the Tiffany Henyard Cares Foundation. And if you don't, we're going to hold on to your license. That's criminal. Now, this is what I got from the news story. Now, y'all let me know, is this good or bad? From this story, there are a bunch of businesses who owe years worth of back taxes. Because they owe years worth of back taxes, the municipality is saying, yo, you owe so many back taxes, we aren't going to allow you to get your license to engage in the business that you were doing until you pay these back taxes. Or it was allowed where these businesses can make a payment plan. Then once they get on a payment plan, then they can actually get their license to engage in the work that they were doing. I read it because I wanted to see. I was like, yo, is this guy strong arming people, or is he doing something that's just reasonable and people don't like? Y'all let me know what y'all think. I'm just saying, I looked it up. I seen both sides. I seen businesses saying, yo, we can't engage in the work. And if we can't engage in the work because we don't have our license to operate, because it's an ecosystem, right? It sounds like a good idea in theory if I say, yo, y'all owe so much money, y'all can't engage in y'all work. But if I don't allow you and your business to do your job, that means mom and pop who need something from that business, they can't go 5 minutes down the street. They got to ride to the next damn county over to buy it. Then when they ride to the next county over, the revenue, the taxes, the gas they probably purchased. We want to stop and buy a sandwich over there. That one thing has a domino effect on the ecosystem of the economy in this community. But let me know, am I missing something on that story? Is it something there that makes it more sinister? Oh my goodness, what the hell? This is just they just trading shit. They just trading bad employees. That's what's going on. The mayor Harvey and the ex-chief of police from the other village all coming to Dalton or Township. Wow, I think they feel they can come to Dalton the Township and take over. It's just like they trading one bad employee for another. You know, bad police used to go from one police department to the other. Looks like they are doing the same. Yeah, those are good points. Both of those are accurate statements, and it happens all the time. A police officer can be in the bad, they can get fired for something and go 2 towns over and get a job with the local sheriff. But y'all let me know, is it something more sinister? Is it something more nefarious than what's going on here than what I explained? Let me know in the comments.
Everyone knows we need the money, but at the same time, we're willing to make the sacrifice and basically enact those austerity measures, which we think we can do safely and responsibly, to still serve our residents, but at the same time, remember, this breaks their back. The residents come first. Government doesn't come first. So if there needs to be a sacrifice, government needs to make that sacrifice.
They are painting this in a very favorable light. Now, when I put his name in the word scandal in, a lot of stuff did come up, but I selected a few videos we could watch because this is the first time I'm really hearing about him. So I want to be objective. But the first video, I put his name in and I wanted to see what popped up. Then I put his name in and scandal, his name in the word fraud to see what popped up. So I wanted to be fair. I was like, let's snatch up a few videos just to get initial impressions on what's going on with this gentleman.
On behalf of his people.
We did talk to a couple of residents here recently in Harvey saying that while the announcement from the mayor does sound good, they have a lot of questions on just how this could be implemented because the city of Harvey does not account for all of their property tax bills. We'll talk to a few of them and we'll hear from them coming up on news starting at 4 o'clock. For now, we are live in Harvey. Sean Lewis, WGN News.
Okay. So let me go ahead and read this comment from the co-counsel. You need to look at this further in regards to the business back taxes. He wants the businesses who owe to pay $20,000 for 1 year for the use of the license, but the $20,000, does that go towards back taxes? Now, okay. All right. If that's the case, therein lies the problem. If y'all owe back taxes, pay me money to get the license. Y'all still owe the back taxes, but at least y'all lining my pockets. Now that's a fucking problem. Okay, so if that's the case, hey, if you found a link to that story or that article, drop it in the chat or either send it to me at officialdebtfreedad@gmail.com. But yeah, now if that's the case, co-counsel, I agree completely. It's an absolute shit show. They do. It's sad that they got to go through all of this nonsense to have all of these terrible leaders. All right, let's take a look at story number 2.
Topping the 10 video you'll see only on 2 tonight, another southern suburb with chaotic confrontations at City Hall.
We've told you about the ongoing investigations over spending in Dalton, often causing blow-ups between the mayor and residents. And tonight, tensions boiled over in Harvey.
How dare you send your police after peaceful residents?
All right, already that's crazy. Cops have. I'm just gonna go on the record and say this: a lot of cops have no de-escalation skills. The same thing in the last chat when we were talking about if you're a concealed carrier, open carry guy, whatever. The most important skill you have to have is conflict avoidance and de-escalation skills. And a lot of police officers have actually no de-escalation skills. I mean, it's just absolutely ridiculous. As a legal professional residing in one of those townships, what legal avenues and strategies would you pursue? Mm. I'm gonna circle back to your question. I'm gonna store your question in the memory bank because that's a good question. I'm gonna store your question in the memory bank and let me get through this and then I'll circle back. Don't let me lose it. If I sometimes your boy memory ain't what it used to be, but I must make sure I hold on to that one. Let me see. All right, I'm gonna start that one. I start that one so that way I know. But yeah, they have none whatsoever. Like, I mean, even something as small as this, like, yo, you could have moved this dude along without without grabbing this dude by the knob on the back of his neck like that. Like, a lot of cops have no de-escalation skills, and honestly, their conducts oftentimes escalate a situation farther than what it needs to go. And I get it. I understand. Trust me, I'm somebody who was in a combat arms unit in a war zone at the start of a war. I know a stressful situation when I see them. So I get that there's a stressful situation, but you never know. I get all that. But this wasn't a situation where you had to move the guy along like this. This actually looked wild right here. So I don't know. Let's go and finish watching this video.
Business owners there say they're being slapped with unnecessary fees, but city leaders say they need the money. CBS 2's Charlie Demar live for us in the control room, hearing from both sides tonight. Charlie?
All right. So again, this story actually backs up your point that you made about the money not going towards back taxes. Because the first video described it as back taxes and wanting businesses to pay. Now is described as unnecessary fees. So unnecessary fees and back taxes are two different things.
And Joe and Erica, some of the frustration in Harvey is over the mayor's plan to collect on delinquent property taxes. Some of the business owners we spoke to today say their business licenses have been withheld in exchange for a fee, calling the program extortion.
Now, see, same story, a different twist. That's why you got to be cautious of the media. That's why you got to watch like CNN and Fox, then go do some reading to figure out what's going on. Because the same exact story, one seemed like, oh man, that's actually sounds like a good thing he's doing in the best interest of the people. Now, not so much.
But to us, this is where everything started.
Benicia Gonzalez hasn't been able to open her auto repair business in South Suburban Harvey since May.
From one day to the next, we were forced to shut down, and the sign was put on our window.
The shop, which has been in Gonzalez's family for over 2 decades, had its business license renewal denied because they owe property taxes.
I'm doing everything that I can in my power to pay these tax bills that was left behind, but I'm only 24 years young and I'm doing what I can do.
Harvey business owners in a similar position were offered a settlement agreement with the city. Pay $2,500 a month and keep your business open.
Now, again, the question is the $2,500 a month going towards their back taxes or going in his packets? Yeah. Oh, we're gonna get to that one, co-counsel. No apologies. We definitely gonna get to that one. He got a little Gestapo action going on with how he running things.
We caught up with Harvey Mayor Christopher Clark as he left a special city council meeting.
The only thing we're asking is for those businesses to pay their property taxes and stop using our city services for free.
It's unethical, right? I can't say it's illegal, but it certainly seems unethical.
Harvey Alderwoman Colby Chapman, a vocal critic of Mayor Christopher Clark.
I don't have any discussion. I just want
And she stay getting in his business too. Like that's her that's his nemesis right there.
Thank you very much.
Says the underserved suburb is at times dysfunctional.
Serve the people and know that we're elected to be here for the people. So
Pastor Jonathan Johnson says he was in disbelief when he was told his church would need to register for a business license.
That's crazy. That's crazy. It's crazy is that's absolutely crazy. The church is a nonprofit. Now, it's crazy if they never had to do it before, but it is not uncommon that some 501(c) nonprofits have to do some type of registration to register. So it's not uncommon, but it's probably shocking to them because they probably never had to do that shit before. They probably could just put chairs in the room and call it a church and just keep it moving.
It was almost $700. I said, where did this come from? We are federally and state exempt from taxes. And I really do feel like it's more of a dictatorship here in the city of Harvey.
Damn, he's just charging the church for no reason.
Minutes into the city council meeting, someone in the audience was removed by police at the direction of Mayor Clark. Officers handcuffed the man and led him out of City Hall.
I'm the chair, and I am responsible for keeping the order. If people in the audience or in the council do not want to keep that order, then they will be removed.
I'm calling on every state official. We need help. We need strong oversight.
And Mayor Clark says safety is the reason that churches now need business licenses. Without one, he says that the city is unable to inspect churches.
What? That's crazy. That sounds completely made up, in my personal opinion. Wow, the Spanish-speaking young lady as the mayor, if they can't have Spanish-speaking translation at the meeting so that other Spanish people can come out. The meeting is the one thing where you got to keep the request has gone deaf for years. That's insane. Churches are not businesses, but nonprofit organizations. He's exactly right. The churches are exempt from federal and state taxes. Yeah, they shouldn't be paying any taxes or anything. Is what happens in some places, and not all, there are fees that you have to file locally to register your 501(c). Now, whatever he said, that's $700 something is actually insane. Normally, it's like a really nominal fee because it's a nonprofit. They're not charging a nonprofit $1,000 to charge a fee. Normally, it's like a $50 fee that you have to do every 2 years or something like that. It's normally something like what he's explaining sounds actually sounds really ridiculous and kind of egregious. Let's see. Let's take
An
a look
elected
at this.
official from a south suburb arrested in jail today, saying the city's mayor is to blame.
This political feud is in Harvey, and WGN's Jenna Barnes joins us live from outside the police.
Now, when you have your political opponents getting arrested, that's when shit kind of get ridiculous. You know, if they get arrested for like a DUI or something, but when they get arrested for like speaking at a meeting or doing something like that, this shit is getting ridiculous. And it's just, I don't know. I just find it hilarious how much authority these small town mayors are exercising, and it just goes unchecked by any state regulatory body. It's just kind of wild to me. It's just like it's like the state is just like, yo, let them act wild over there and do whatever they gonna do, and we just keep focusing on everything else that we focusing on.
Police department there with more tonight. Jenna?
Ray and Micah, Harvey police are not backing away from the arrest of older woman Colby Chapman, even though she was released without being charged, and she calls the arrest an abuse of power.
On the back of the police car, the video is slightly turned because I'm in handcuffs.
Harvey alderwoman Colby Chapman streaming on Facebook Live in the back of a police car Wednesday morning.
Stated that I filed a false police report, which I did not.
Held by Harvey police for hours, then released without charges. In an arrest, Chapman says was politically motivated.
I've always used my platform to stand for the residents here in the.
Now, when I hear a person was arrested, that means you were taken into custody, your movement was restricted, and there were no charges filed. My thoughts immediately go to, that sounds like false imprisonment to me. That sounds like false imprisonment to me.
The second ward and serve the city of Harvey. And I believe overall my servitude is agitating to certain pieces of the administration.
The Harvey Police Department has come to the conclusion, but only after having arrested my client and having my client stay in custody for an excess of 5 hours, that they didn't have a basis to arrest Ms. Chapman.
The arrest for an alleged false report stems from an incident between Chapman and the Harvey city administrator in August, captured on this surveillance video. She was arrested then, too.
I simply am here to do my job, and I simply just want to be able to do that as opposed to being arrested, falsely targeted.
Chapman points to her criticism of Mayor Christopher Clark as the reason for her arrest, criticism that's gotten her escorted out of city council meetings. This is video from one of those instances earlier this year.
I've worked adamantly to get questions answered, and
Man, she looked tall as shit.
specifically around our financial landscape. Those questions are always met with some authoritarian rebuttal.
WGN News called the mayor for comment. His PR representative sent a written statement, including this quote from Harvey's police chief, reading, "Filing a false report wastes valuable resources and undermines public trust. While it's unfortunate the Cook County State's attorney, Kim Fox, chose not to prosecute her sorority sister, Colby Chapman, our investigation clearly shows a contradiction in Chapman's claims."
I don't know. That sounds kind of. I don't know. Is that true? Kim Fox, her sorority sister, and refused to prosecute the case. That's why she was not. That's crazy. I'm confused. I don't know. Let's finish watching it, then I'll tell y'all why I'm confused, and y'all let me know if that's accurate.
Clearly shows a contradiction in Chapman's claims.
We should be thankful that at least one, person in the Harvey Police Department realized it was not advisable to continue to just follow the blind instructions from a mayor who doesn't have the power to direct, people being arrested to begin with.
Though no charges were filed today, police tell us their investigation into this matter continues. Chapman's attorney tells us he plans to file a federal civil rights lawsuit as early as this week over this arrest and more. We're live in Harvey tonight. Jenna Barnes, WG.
That sounds about right. I was a little confused because it was like she was arrested with no charges filed, but then the statement from the police chief said that the sorority sister, Kim Fox, declined to pursue the case. So I don't know. I'm confused because that don't make any sense. If y'all didn't charge her, if y'all arrested her and never charged her, what case is there to pursue? It would be different if what he said make no sense. If we're talking about she was arrested for filing a false police report based on that previous thing. All right. So if that was the case, you would have arrested her, charged her with filing a false police report. Then after you charged her, the prosecutor would have said, "Nah, I'm not taking this case. We're going to toss it." But that doesn't sound like it. What happened? It sounded like she was arrested, no charges were ever filed, and then he said the prosecutor declined to do it because that's her sorority sister. That don't make any sense. It seems to me like, and it sounds like it was just, I don't know. It sounds to me like it was just an arrest made without any charges being filed, and they just realized that they fucked up personally. That's what I said. If he gets Tiffany's job, it's going to be the Ice-T show for real at the Thornton Township. Yeah, because all of these little jobs as mayor, the township supervisor is the worst job to have if you have a corrupt person in there, because they are accountable for they have so many municipalities that fall under the mere acreage of the township. I mean, I can't remember how many acres it covers in that video. What is a township? But yeah, like a mayor can do a lot of damage. A township supervisor could really jack some stuff up big time. Way more money, way more resources. I agree. And hopefully those the only two candidates. Like, they got to get somebody else. Anybody. Like, I mean, they got to get anybody could probably beat those two. I'm going to be honest. Like, they got to get anybody. Yep, that's correct. Churches are generally exempt. They are exempt. I wouldn't even say typically. They are exempt from paying taxes. but they got to find anybody. This exemption is based on the principle of separation of church and state, recognizing the religious and charitable purposes for which church properties are used. That is 100% correct as well. I appreciate you and thank you for dropping that comment. Would you take that false imprisonment case? I mean, on the facts I have, I think it's clearly false imprisonment. It's a unlawful arrest. When you're arrested and no charges are filed, why the fuck did they take you in the first place? Did they even have probable cause? That I don't know. That's like you can't be arrested without probable cause. You restricted a person's movement and moved them from point A to point B where they weren't free to go. I mean, on the facts that we just have in front of us, I actually think that's an easy case. They used it to intimidate, to silence her. Terrible. Probably true. Kim Fox actually lives in the south suburbs. So again, another example of, if you know somebody who's in a position of power, you could be able to finesse something. Now, I don't know. It's weird because he's saying that she refused to move forward with the charges, but the report said she was arrested and no charges were ever filed. So I don't know. Both of those things can't be true unless they're talking about two separate instances. Even though they committed a felony. Hey man, it's wild. The law is the law, and one of the smartest things that you can do if you are an official who has the ability to appoint judges is appoint judges. Do not let vacancies go unheard. And we only think of it from a federal standpoint. That's something I like. When someone does something stupid or not intelligent, I'll call it out. And when someone does something that I was like, that was smart, I'll call it out. And probably one thing that President Trump did when he was in office was he appointed more federal judges than the previous two presidents combined. Because we only normally think about the Supreme Court, but that's not the biggest thing. He appointed judges. There were a lot of vacancies at district court and appellate court levels. And before your case gets to the Supreme Court, who the hell is going to hear your case? A district court judge. So when the judges are there, in law school, the professors say all the time, it's not what the law says, it's not who passes the law, it's how the law is interpreted. I don't really care what the law says, but how people interpret the law to be applied is a big deal. And the number is 6-3. And another election year, Trump might get 2 more appointments to the Supreme Court. Possibly 2 more. It is what it is. That's what happened when you put justices and judges in charge. They'll rule in something that may be favorable. All politics in Illinois make no sense. I agree. Yeah. Well, there was an incident where Alderman Colby and another trustee had some kind of incident, and Colby was the one who went to jail for the incident. Interesting. Nate Fields is running for supervisor. Shout out to him. Hey, Nate Fields is running for supervisor. I'm unfamiliar with Nate Fields, but looking at the 2 people on this thumbnail, I think Nate Fields might actually stand a chance. Just somebody who is only 30% corrupt would be a big improvement. Because I think most politicians are about 15 to 20% corrupt. Then you got a select few politicians who are corrupt, but they do their 20% in public and open in front of everybody. They don't try to hide it. But hey, shout out to Nate Fields. If you run it, I don't even know you. I'm going to look you up and we'll talk about it. But anybody is like, I don't know, like somebody asking you like, all right, you get to choose the way with which you will no longer be here. Would you rather get bit by a poisonous snake knowing you're not going to make it to the hospital, but you're going to run and try? Or would you rather just have a boa constrictor contract you? Like both options are ass. Like both options are absolutely terrible. So that's who Kamal threw into a window. Oh, it wasn't a deck. Oh, okay. I remember that now. I appreciate you, pretty eyes, for clarifying that. Yes, they say anyone can run for the position, but the filing date was, oh yeah. In your city, if in your city you had like two choices for mayor, like let's say you had two choices for mayor, Tiffany Henyard and this guy, right? And I think universally we both agree that we probably don't want any of them. Would you actually throw your name in the hat just to have someone else there, or would you just be like, "Fuck it, they all terrible, but I'm not going to do it. Nobody else going to do it." Like, what would you do in that situation? I wouldn't probably throw my name in the hat, but I would probably go to like a local city councilman or a trustee or an alderman, somebody who I'm like, yo, you can actually do this. I would try to go and push that person to do it. Like, yo, if you do it, hell, I help with your campaign. No wonder Tiffany is getting away with her shit. Yeah, with the governor. Hey, the governor is looking wild. It's all crazy. It's all crazy. Okay. I hope they have as many candidates as possible so that people have an actual choice. And the interesting thing too, when you have because I'm just assuming that these municipalities are just super blue, just Democrats always win. So you have to have a primary. You got to primary these guys. If you want to win, and if you're in an all blue city, state, all red city or state, and you run an election, if you want to get somebody out, it's not the general election, because if you're in DC and it's a general election and it's a blue versus a red, blue is always going to win. That's just what it is. So if you have a blue candidate who sucks and you want to get them out of office, you have to have people primary them and get them out of office before you move to the general election. Otherwise, you're just going to get stuck with somebody who suck ass and doing the same suck ass thing over and over and over. So, all right, let me roll back up real quick because I know I said, all right, as a legal professional, if I resided in one of those townships, what legal avenues and strategies would you pursue? It's interesting because I don't think the avenues to pursue right now are no longer legal. I think it's just a matter of a political question. So I think the best thing that could be done, I don't know if there's any legal recourse you can do right now, considering we're so close to election. It looks like the Thornton Township trustees are just in a stalling tactic. The legal avenue would be, if I'm a trustee or I was advising the trustees, I would say, if you can secure enough votes to where you can pass an ordinance and override a mayor's potential veto of an ordinance, don't not show up. Just show up and beat her to death because you all have the votes. If they don't have the votes, what they're doing is probably the best tactic to just stall them out, because there's nothing else they can do. If they show up, they're not going to have the votes, and then Henyard would get whatever she wants. So those are really your legal avenues. I think the only strategy really here is a political one, by having more people jump into the race, trying to dilute the pool. Like, honestly, I would probably want, if it's a election, I would probably like, yeah, we need another black female to run to siphon off votes from Tiffany Henyard. Essentially, the more candidates you have, the less likely that she is to win, I think. If it's just her and somebody else, it's going to be a problem. But the more candidates you got, I think the less likely. Well, it depends. It depends, because it depends on how sucky I think these candidates are so sucky that more candidates will be better, because I think anybody who doesn't have the last name Henyard is probably going to be looked at favorably. So I think that's the way to go if you want to get her out of her positions. If the trustees had the votes to where they could pass an ordinance and override her veto, they should do that. But I think they aren't showing up because they don't have the votes to do that. So they'll just rather say, let's not show up, not have a quorum, so we can't vote to do anything. And we're so close in the game right now. One thing that nobody want to do, I'm telling you right now, is go to court in November and December if you're an attorney. So if they stall it out, it'll get them at least through next year without allowing Henyard to do any major damage. So I think those are that they're doing probably the best option that they have to do. The next point would be just a political thing, and it just depends, because I don't know if it's more than two candidates. If it's only two candidates, what Tiffany Henyard, if she has a political advisor, will probably do. If it's just Tiffany Henyard and opponent A, her name is so bad. Let's say it was just those two. If it was just Tiffany Henyard and Christopher Clark running, Christopher Clark would probably beat Tiffany Henyard because her name is so bad. So what Tiffany Henyard would try to do politically is, I want to put a person in this race just to take away votes from him. They may not vote for me, but they may not vote for me or they may not vote for him. But if we put a third person in their race, black male, take votes away from him, then it'll increase her chances of winning. But with just two people in the election, she would be fucked. But with more people, it just depends how it plays out. I don't know. I just think the climate is so bad. I think Tiffany Henyard has a last name that in Illinois is just when it comes to elections, nobody wants a Henyard. It's kind of how I don't know if y'all ever, I like nerdy shit. I watched a documentary on it was a George Bush documentary, and I didn't know this, but George Bush Jr. wasn't supposed to run for president when he did. It was actually supposed to be his brother Jeb, and one with a name like Jeb, it's going to be hard to get people to vote for you. That name sounds just wow. Okay, but it was actually supposed to be his brother Jeb, and George Bush's father was actually mad at him for running. He just woke up one morning and was like, I had a dream and God told me to run for president. And they was like, what the hell are you doing? And after George Bush Jr. had his 2 terms, his father tells him, you ruined it, so another Bush will never win office in this country again. And I think that's how, if your last name is Bush, and you're not like Cora Bush, if your last name is Bush or your last name is Henyard, it's probably going to be really tough for you to win an election. Let's see. That's crazy. That's kind of my thoughts on it. But that's what I think. I think that the time for legal recourse is kind of getting thin. Let me see. I would not run for mayor in Harvey, Illinois, but I would run for alderman in my area in Harvey. That's fair. And that's something you should consider doing. If you think you can provide better for the constituents and the people, and shout out to aldermen too, because I think those are like really important. Like those are people don't realize how important that stuff is. I looked at the statistics on the city of Harvey, and like, crime is stats not looking good. Economy stats is not looking good. I did that before. I was in a state and I was like, this state kind of getting wild. And I just got up and left. I was like, man, I'm leaving. This shit is crazy. Yeah. There's a letter out now from Gonzalez and Carlisle saying that they will not be at the special board meeting. And I did see, I can't remember who wrote the letter for the last meeting that they missed. It may have been, I don't know if it was one of them or both of them, but I did read that the letter that they wrote, but that's the best approach they can do. If they say legally, what should we do? Well, y'all don't got the votes to make nothing happen. Y'all can't override a veto in any capacity. Just don't show up and leave it alone. Yeah, that's what because I looked at it. I wanted to kind of get an idea of the demographic and see places like that is I don't know. It's just the economy is just a tough ecosystem, and when one thing fall off, when you don't have jobs, like think about it. Think about the impact of businesses aren't paying their taxes. And now this dude is trying to shake them down allegedly and not giving them their license. Well, if businesses don't have license, the people who go to those businesses, who work at those businesses, can't work. So now they can't pay their damn bills. The people who go to those businesses can't go to those businesses, so they got to go somewhere else. The people who goes to an automotive shop to get their business vehicle fixed can't even get their business vehicle. All that shit just rolled downhill. That's actually terrible. More candidates. I agree. It does divide the pot. It just kind of depends. I think that Henyard's name is so bad that she's not going to get a lot of traction. I would be shocked if she gets a lot of traction. If she gets a lot of traction, or if she wins like any of these elections, like I don't know, if she wins any of these elections, I'm 100%. I'm 98% blaming the citizens, because that should not actually happen at all. Yeah, I agree. I agree. I agree. Yeah, when he passed away, that shit, everything just went to trash. Oh, interesting. Let's see. What's your opinion on Trump's inability to secure sufficient Republican votes to confirm Gates? Illustrates a significant lack of political leverage within the party, and he may not be the day. I mean, I don't know. I think the appointment of Matt Gaetz, I don't think it was ever a real thing. Literally, before Trump selected Pam Bondi, I just had a conversation with an attorney who I used to work with, who I hired, who used to work in the Florida Attorney General's office. And me and her had this conversation during President Trump's first term. We was like, yeah, I think he's going to select Pam Bondi. Pam Bondi has always been a person who was a Trump supporter. She actually handled the litigation, or the handled the Trump University thing that kind of didn't really materialize into something, because she was a Florida Attorney General. I don't think the Matt Gaetz thing was ever serious. I think Matt Gaetz, personally, my personal opinion was, I think Matt Gaetz wanted to bow out of Congress before that internal investigation that they were doing on him would ever had a chance to hit the light of day. And once they realized that that wasn't going to hit the light of day, because if they got an internal investigation on Gates, they got an investigation on a lot of other people, and they all started pointing at each other. I think that was just a way for him to bow out gracefully, like, oh, I'm bowing out from Congress because I have this nomination. But it was no way that he was going to get the nod. Now, Pam Bondi, whether you agree with her politics or not, she's highly qualified to do the job. Highly qualified to do the job. But I don't think it's necessarily, I wouldn't look at the Matt Gaetz thing as a rift in the party, because a lot of people didn't rock with Matt Gaetz. Like everybody, like if I say, what do you think of Matt Gaetz? If you're a Democrat, what do you think of Matt Gaetz? Everybody gonna be like, man, he was absolutely terrible. But I'm be honest, like if you're a Democrat and Trump was appointing Attorney General, you might as well have Matt Gaetz, because he wasn't as Republican as most Republicans are. He signed off on legislation, because I like politics. So I look at all the good and the bad at everybody. And I was like, oh man, Matt Gaetz, I don't think he qualified to be Attorney General, but let me look at his record. He voted on the bill to get money out of politics and not allow politicians to be able to engage in insider training, which I'm a fan of. He had like 3 actual bills that I looked at and I was like, actually, those weren't terrible positions to agree with. But I don't think it shows a rift in the party. I think that he had 2 bills that he signed off on. The third thing that he did was challenge old school Republicans. So I just don't think it was. I think that some people like Matt Gaetz, some people didn't. Older school guys didn't. I just think it was a way like, hey, let's nominate you for this so you can bow out from this, get from underneath this investigation being released. That was my thought. It was Gonzalez who wrote it. Okay. Yeah. Hey, Hey man, I'm just laughing because I didn't write it. You know what I mean? But hey, that's what it is. I'm just reporting on it. I want y'all to know what is going on and what can and can't happen. That's crazy. I would get my license and still wouldn't vote for her ass. Once you give me my license, you can't. How you know who I'm voting for once I get back there? If she want to give out licenses to secure my vote and I'm a business, I'd be like, oh, what? I'm gonna talk to all my employees. I'm gonna incentivize all my employees to vote for you. Then once you give me my license and I open my business up and we go back to work, I'm gonna have a meeting. I'm gonna pull all my employees in and be like, yo, all these weeks that we couldn't work, it was her fault. She just now gave us this license. I want y'all to remember when we didn't have this license, we couldn't work. That's whose fault it was. That's what I would do. That's exactly what I would do. Yep. See, yep, yeah. You say the same thing. I agree. I think they just gave that to Gates, so Gates had what looked like a legitimate reason to buy out of Congress. But I mean, this dude was being investigated for some crazy, like, soon as you hear like, yeah, I don't know. He was being investigated for some crazy stuff. I don't even want to talk about it because then they'd be like, "Oh, we gonna demonetize you." Yeah, my cousin says she loves Big Tiff because she goes to Big Bingo and she knows nothing else but bingo. It's plenty of people in the township that don't know anything. But man, you know what? Hey, I'm about to give you a round of applause. You get a round of applause, a chime, a round of applause. The explosion. We gonna drop an explosion on all that. You get all the sound features on here that I don't use that I have because I made that argument. I said if it's just two people running for mayor in the village of Dalton, bingo targets the one population who is going to go out and vote. Senior citizens fucking vote. They vote at a large clip, like 80%. Young people don't vote worth a damn. It's actually like terrible. Young people do not vote at all. Senior citizens vote. And I said that on the live. I said, man, I don't know. If it's just two people, it could be close. That's why I said I'm not gonna give advice, but a political aardvark, if y'all know what that is, that's just when I'm running against you and I need somebody to take votes from you. So I get my boy to run, and like he won't take votes from me, but he'll maybe siphon enough votes off from you. But she's targeting the right population with these bingo things. So I get why she's violating the law, giving out bingo prizes more than $10, like TVs, microwaves, and all this other stuff. And yeah, Granny may have to pay taxes on that stuff, but I doubt if anybody come after them for that. But that actually is kind of strategic to do because young people don't really vote like that. I mean, it's sad, but it is what it is. She's trying to hold on because she knows she'll lose her. Yeah, she's probably, I agree. I'd be shocked. If she hold on to any position, I would be shocked. Yeah. Her evil plan is working. Free, free, free. Vote for me, me, me. People only care about what's going on in the here and now. And I'm gonna be honest, like I don't know. A lot of people are really uninformed to what's really going on. That's why one of the things I say that's kind of bad, and it's kind of bad when trustees don't show up and they don't have a quorum. Because when they don't show up and don't have a quorum, it pretty much turns into a venue to allow Tiffany Henyard to just go on a rant and say things that, like, it sounds good to say, hey, I want to give back X million dollars in tax rebates, even though we know, hey, that's just a finesse to try to get some votes. It doesn't make any sense. If I give you tax rebates and your property taxes now, you're gonna have to pay those later. It's circle back around, but it just sounds good to a lot of people. So I don't know. I don't know. It's kind of crazy. Oh, only three. If she paid for them, I mean, she should. She make a shitload of money. She should have paid for them. If she paid for them, that's interesting. I'm trying to think. if she had a bingo event and she sanctioned it as a township thing or a village thing, and she giving out, I don't know, that might not. I don't know. I'm trying to think. Would that be would that be an illegal campaign contribution? Because campaign contributions have a weird definition. The definition is like a monetary contribution to anything that could benefit your campaign. That's why the hush money case was actually about illegal campaign contributions, because if I paid a stripper hush money not to talk about something and I'm running for office, I'm paying it for the purpose of not hurting my actual campaign. So I don't know. That'll be interesting. I'd be shocked if it's her own money though. You really mean she'll lie like in that video? Sounds like she's trying to get the votes and fool the feds. I don't know if she's gonna fool the feds. She paid for that bet. You should use a credit. Yeah, I agree. I don't know. I just hope the township. I hope all of the small places who have shit mayors. I hope y'all get somebody who's remotely better. And they could be, if these people, if Henyard and all these other people are 90% terrible, like I just hope y'all can find somebody who like 25% terrible. But you got to get out there and vote. I actually told someone this with regard to the. I told someone this with regard to the presidential election. Interesting. But out of those 16,000 adults who aren't seniors, shit, what, probably 7% of them are turning out to vote. A lawyer told her that she can't give anything on government property. She tried it with the Christmas raffle. Yeah, I can see how that would be like, and that's why I say it could be looked at as an illegal campaign contribution, because you putting this stuff like, hey, the super mayor is hosting this. I'm hosting this, and you putting out your government position, and then you pay. It is a mess. That's actually a mess. That'll be crazy if she put the food pantry guy. The food pantry guy? That'd be crazy if she try to put the food pantry guy that's crazy. I don't even know how that's possible though. Like, oh man, we don't have a city council member, so the mayor gets to put a city council member there. And I agree with Carlisle and Gonzalez that, like, yo, that's something that the people should do. That's kind of crazy. Let's see. I told somebody this. We were having a discussion. This was prior to the election, and we were talking about how Vice President Harris was having all of these rallies and had all of these like actors and movie stars and rappers and shit there. And me personally, I get that shit is insulting to me personally. Like, I just don't give a fuck about what Cardi B got to say about anything outside of some music that may slap on the radio. Like, I just don't care about what Cardi B or Glorilla. I don't give a shit about what Eminem got to say. I don't give a damn about what Oprah. None of those people can relate to me, so I don't really give a damn about them. And so we were having this discussion, and I said, I'm not a fan of the pep rally. They have these pep rally and bring all these people out. And this person said, well, at these events, it's for the young people. The young people come out and see all of these things. And I said, I would love to see the statistics of the young people who attended these fucking pep rallies and actually voted. Because I think they just coming to see if they're going to get a concert. Like, okay, like, yeah, a lot of people are going to show up. But just because a lot of people are going to show up if fucking Beyonce there. Shit, I'll be like, yo, if Beyonce show up and do 2 songs, I would be like, oh man, I'm gonna take the family because that's cheaper than buying real Beyonce tickets. Like, but I don't know. A lot of people thought that stuff will get out the young vote, but I just say that to show that, man, young people will go to all that shit. They'll see Eminem and Oprah and all that shit, but man, a lot of those people ain't voting when it comes time to vote. So I don't know. It's just fucking terrible that they got to go through this, and hopefully they can find something that's a little bit better than what they got going on. I don't believe she'll win the Thornton Township because remember when she tried to get past by the voters to build a new food pantry. The voters said no last year. Yeah, I think this. I don't know. I would love to. I'm gonna do. I don't know. I'll probably do it next week, but I'm gonna do like a live stream next week. I'm trying to think how I want to do it because I got 2 live streams I want to do, and I want to do a members only live stream where we could talk about whatever, or y'all could just ask me questions about shit, and we can just dive into it and break it down. But I don't know. I'm thinking of doing a chat where I put a link and have people just kind of click the link, and all you can hear is the voice, but people chime in because I don't know what the real climate is in places like Dalton and within the township overall. I would like to think that it's bad, but sometimes I'll see a video that Tiffany Henyard's doing on Facebook, and man, that shit will have a lot of fucking hearts by it. You think it'll be mostly smiley faces, but it'll be a lot of damn hearts, yeah. And that was the 17 communities that voted, yeah. If you receive $600 or more in gambling winnings, the player should issue a W-2G. That's correct. Yeah, and if you win more than $5,000, a player could withhold 24% from federal income taxes and backup withholdings. Yep, you are 100% correct. But that goes to show if grandma want to wash her and dry, grandma could be on the hook for back taxes with regard to it. And they lost. Yeah, I don't know. I just think parading. I'm not a fan of parading black celebrities out. I just don't give a damn about what a celebrity thinks. I would actually rather them had the valedictorian from Howard University School of Law stand up there and give a speech than me give a damn about what Cardi B got to say. I just don't care. I don't know. I just think it's fucking insulting, me personally. Oh, the RICO law, that wild ass trial they got going on in Georgia. That shit long as fuck. I was actually shocked Young Thug took a plea because I was like, damn, Thug, I thought you was winning personally. Yeah, we'll talk about it. I got a video where I went into federal RICO. So what I'll do is I'll make sure to put a pin in that one. So I know that's something we're gonna talk about. I'll let y'all know in the chat what day that I'm gonna do it. But I'll make sure to remember to take a look at Georgia's state RICO law. It probably follows and mirrors the federal law most likely. Yeah, it's actually not a bad place, and it's bad in some places because the ticket traps and the tickets are $500. God damn, $500 for a ticket trap? That's high as fuck. Here's like $200. If you got a camera, it's like $200. We got a lot of cameras out here, but it is what it is. Yo, I'm about to jump off here. I appreciate everybody for tuning into this video. We looked at a federal level story, a state level story, and a local municipality level story, and bad law and corruption and knowing people in high places. Hey, that shit has some impact on how you get treated in the justice system. As fucked up as it is what it is. The system that we live in, and it's not a perfect one by far. I don't know. That's terrible. I hate to end the live on a bad note, but hey, just don't end up in court. All right. So don't end up in court so you don't gotta worry about how fucked up the justice system may or may not be. That's the best way to end this. That's the best way to end it. Yeah. No, they didn't even make a decision on this bond. They didn't make a decision on the bond, but they're not letting his ass out. I seriously doubt that they letting his ass out. They will not. I'd be shocked if they let Diddy out on a bond. I'd be shocked. Oh, interesting story though. Interesting story. Real quick, while we on that, I'm glad you said that because I didn't know this. Someone at my job, another attorney, actually told me this. But no, I don't think he's making bond. If he gets a bond, I don't care if it's $100 million, he can make it. I think he got $100 million worth of assets easily. He was once a billionaire, so I think he got 100. If he gets the bond, he'll make it. I think he's going to be on a no bond. He's just not going to have a bond, and they're not going to give him an option. But this is interesting. I didn't know this. So we know that the bond package that Diddy put up was a $50 million bond package, secured with a majority of it secured by his home in Miami, I believe. And he got locked up. He didn't pay that home off, but after he got incarcerated, he immediately paid that home off. And I didn't know it, but an attorney was telling me, I was like, oh, that was actually pretty smart. In Florida, they have some homestead law where if your house is paid off, you can't lose equity in your home if it's paid off completely. So that was the reason why, after all of this shit was going down, he scrambled to hurry up and pay off that Florida home, because even with this, if this thing turns into a conviction, because of Florida's law, his equity in that place is actually protected. I actually didn't even know that. It was actually interesting. 48 million was the payoff. Interesting. Yeah, but yeah, I didn't know that about that Florida homestead provision that gives him some protection in holding on to that home and that equity in that home, even if this whole criminal thing goes bad and goes belly up in a conviction. So shout out to him. That was a smart move by his attorney to advise him to do that. I was unfamiliar with that particular Florida law, but it was definitely a smart move. Yo, I'm about to hop off here. I appreciate everybody for tuning in and jumping in the comments. Yo, if y'all got something y'all want me to rap about, shoot me an email, officialdebtfreedad@gmail.com, or you can hit me up on IG as well at officialdebtfreedad. Email is always best. People email me all the time, and if it's something we can use and talk about, we'll definitely talk about it. Oh, it said what? It says that's what, yeah. Is that why OJ Simpson with the Florida? Probably so. And that's what Giuliani is trying to do. Yeah, hey, if there's a good rule out there that you can use to your advantage to protect you, take advantage of it, guys. Y'all have a good one. Be blessed. Have a safe weekend. Peace.